Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another NetHope Solution Center webinar. Today, our topic is mapping with AI and communities, and we're welcoming presenters from Humanitarian OpenStreetMap Team and Facebook. Before we get started today, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping guidelines for our session. Please keep this interactive. Please put your comments and questions in the chat window for our Q&A and discussion session toward the end of the hour. Also, later today, please look for a follow-up email that will include a link to the recording for this session that you may share widely with colleagues and any collateral and other information that's provided during the session. And also, we do appreciate your feedback. It's very important to help us make these sessions better. Please take a moment to complete our webinar satisfaction poll that will be presented toward the end of the webinar as well. And with that, I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Duncan Drury, who is NetHope's connectivity and infrastructure expert. Duncan?
Thanks, Madeline, thanks. So in the last year, it feels very much like a lot of us have been working virtually, and our connection with Place maybe has been changed slightly. But all of our organizations work in places and for places and need to know about them. How do you get there? Who lives there? Things like that. Traditionally, the places where humanitarian organizations work have been very difficult to get information about the places. Mapping is not particularly accurate or up to date, and data about those places is very difficult to come by. So I'm very pleased to welcome today some people that have been working on solving some of those problems using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the power of local communities to map and collect data. So we have speakers from Humanitarian OpenStreetMap's team, some OpenStreetMap communities in Uganda and Malawi that are responsible for collecting some of the data, and also from Facebook, which are using their considerable data expertise to provide data that's useful in emergencies and humanitarian situations. So I'd love to hand over to Jeffrey Katerega from Humanitarian OpenStreetMap Team. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Duncan, and good evening, good morning, everyone, wherever you're joining from. Yeah, on the next slide, please. So my name is Geoffrey Katerega, and I work with the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team as the community manager in our regional hub in Eastern and Southern Africa, which is based in Nairobi, Kenya. Next slide, please. So other Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team is a US NGO and also an international team. And by combining OpenStreetMap, open source tools, and local knowledge, we do support mapping communities worldwide and create and provide data and maps to improve humanitarian action, disaster response, and development. And really what we do is to work with local communities in doing this and doing the mapping and providing this map data. In the next slide. Yeah, so we are working towards a world where everyone is counted. And by this we mean, you know, if someone is missing on the map, then it's easy to miss out on planning for resource allocation and so on. But also we are working towards a world where map data is easily accessible and used by humanitarian, by development actors, by individuals and communities in making decisions that save and improve lives. And we're also working towards a world where anyone, everywhere can engage and contribute to the map by using the openly accessible tools and knowledge to catalyze change through open mapping, working together via a global kind of network. Next slide. So we do have this ambitious goal where we want to map a place that's home to 1 billion people in the next 5 years, especially in 94 countries in Asia Pacific, in East Africa, in West Africa, and also in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we'll do this by engaging 1 million mappers and working with local mapping communities. And the way we are doing this is by creating regional hubs. So have a regional hub in Eastern and Southern Africa, and also one in Asia Pacific that is based in the Philippines, which have already started work. And we're also opening up hubs in West Africa and also one in Latin America. Next slide. So one of the ways we support these local mapping communities is through provision of micro grants through our micro grant program. And this micro grant program really aims to help open mapping and open data communities around the world with the resources they need to train volunteers and grow their activities and impact, but also to grow and develop leadership skills of local leaders in these mapping communities, and also to broaden the ways in which this mapping and data is contributing to solve global challenges. Next slide. So since we started this program in 2017, we have so far provided 74 micro grants in 36 countries. And really these are projects which are community-led, but also grow partnerships with data users, and also are inclusive. So encouraging more women and also marginalized communities into mapping, and also providing a platform for collaboration with other open mapping communities around the world. Next slide. Yeah, so one of our micro grant programs is actually the Facebook Community Impact Micro Grants, where we have supported 5 communities last year with grants. And also this year we are supporting over 15 groups in East Africa and also in Asia Pacific with micro grants to work on their community mapping projects that do respond to solving a local challenge. So these projects are really community-led, and I'm glad to mention that we have 2 of these communities that we support here with us today to share about their projects. And on this, I'd love to invite Samson to share about his project.
Thank you, Geoffrey. Hello, everyone. My name is Samson Gumenawe, and I'm the Community Projects Engagement Officer at Map Uganda, which is the OpenStreetMap community for Uganda. And I'm going to talk about our photo mapping project, which is the current project we are running in the newly created cities here in Uganda. Next slide. A little bit about Map Uganda, or the OpenStreetMap Uganda. This is a registered NGO that is working across Uganda and East Africa and the entire world, that promotes open participatory mapping that generates map awareness. We also pledge to create open data sets and build a network of enthusiastic mappers in Uganda and as well as in the entire world. And also OpenStreetMap Uganda works to provide opportunities for the youth to get digital skills through mapping. And these have been conducted through training the youth to get involved in our projects, and also through our internship programs that we conduct periodically at Map Uganda. Next slide. So about the goal of our photo mapping project, its main goal is to enhance and add more localized detailed data to the remotely mapped OpenStreetMap data that we created when we were mapping, when we were remotely mapping our new cities in Uganda. And this project is being carried out in 2 steps. And the first step includes capturing street level photos using Mapillary, which is a mobile application that is freely available on the Play Store and as well as the Apple Store. Then also the next phase of the project is using Mapillary plugin in OpenStreetMap ID editor, which is a web-based OpenStreetMap editor, and also on JOSM, which is a standalone OpenStreetMap editor with more advanced features. And with this, we are working to add details for these existing points, and also to add new points that have not been existing on the map, like the roads and other features that has not been on the map. So we are going to use these street level captured photos to add the details that we want on OpenStreetMap. Next slide. And our targets for this project include: 1, capturing and uploading over 100,000 street level photos on Mapillary. And also, we want to train at least 50 community mappers in the use of Mapillary in ID editor and also in JOSM. We also want to create detailed maps for cities so that these cities can use these maps to enhance their planning capabilities and to better plan for their inhabitant populations. We also want to grow the entire OpenStreetMap Uganda community to have over 300 volunteers and contributors through our internship and training program. Next slide. So, and in this project, mainly, we are using community-owned smartphones to deploy on streets and capture these street level photos. Then after these photos have been uploaded to the Mapillary platform, we use the Hot Tasking Manager, which is a web-based collaborative platform that is used for managing mapping. And then we also use ID editor that is directly embedded in OpenStreetMap, and also the Java OpenStreetMap editor, which is JOSM, that is used to display these photos and add the details on these photos to OpenStreetMap. Like you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, it is a photo that was captured on a street, and it is showing a dwariro, which is a local word meaning a hospital or a clinic. So that information can easily be added on the map, as you can see on the right-hand side. The next slide. So about the progress, we have already trained a number of youth mappers that we are able to capture street level photos in some of the 3 cities, including Mbale City in the east, Masaka City in the west, and Lira City in the northern part of Uganda. And within those cities, we were able to upload over 70,000 photos onto Mapillary using the Map Uganda Mapillary account for organizations. We are also developing a workflow for how we are going to train other communities on how to use Mapillary to add details to OpenStreetMap. So we are working on that workflow, which we shall roll out and use it for training communities. So with this project, the community is already excited to see that these small businesses in town can also appear on the map, because with the new normal now, these small businesses need to be exposed and also take part in maybe online business where someone can reach out to their customers by finding them on the map. Next slide. What have we learned through this project? We've already seen that with the community-owned smartphones that we are currently using, while capturing photos at some point, the phone is overused and it starts heating. So what we are doing is to carry an extra phone so that if one phone is heating, then you can switch as you upload those photos to the platform, you can still continue capturing using an extra phone. And also these street level captured photos are somehow heavy, so you need some time and a strong internet connection to upload them to the platform. And as well, we are working to have memorandum of understandings with these cities so that our work and relationship with these cities is enhanced, because in terms of getting clearance to operate in cities. Then we also noticed that as you deploy on the streets to capture the photos, you need to be so vigilant and look out for someone who is looking around to grab your phone. And as well, to also overcome the environment effects, the sunshine, you need to carry some drinking water so that you don't dehydrate as you do the mapping. So all this, we want to thank the Hot Micro Grant team. And I also want to thank you for joining this webinar. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dabile and I'll be representing Map Malawi. I will talk about the Dzaleka mapping project that we're currently conducting. Next slide, please. So Map Malawi is a newly established non-governmental organization that was founded in December 2020 by myself and my co-founder Zola Manyunga. We are both affiliated with the Youth Mappers organization and the alumni of its leadership fellowship program. I am currently an instructor at the African Drone and Data Academy and also serving as a regional ambassador under Youth Mappers, where Zola is currently a member of staff at the University of Malawi and also a graduate research assistant at West Virginia University. Next slide, please. Our mission as Map Malawi is to create, engage, and also work with youth-based communities in creating open source geospatial data by using geospatial technology as one of the means in contributing towards addressing the local developmental and humanitarian issues that we face here in Malawi. Next slide, please. So Dzaleka refugee camp is located in Malawi and is one of the largest camps. It's located just 50 kilometers outside of our capital city, Lilongwe, and it was established in 1994 by UNHCR in response to the surge of forcibly displaced people. It was initially designed to house 10,000 people, but as I'm speaking right now, it's reached its maximum absorption and now houses 43,000 refugees, and also it houses 43,000 refugees and asylum seekers. So basically the increase in population translates to an increase in the demand of already inadequate resources at the camp. Next slide, please. So what our project aims to do is to generate geospatial data that will show the provision of basic needs at the refugee camp by integrating drones, OpenStreetMap, and other geospatial technologies. So centers within and around the refugee camp will allow the refugees to access these different needs will be mapped out. So these centers could either be education centers, healthcare centers, water points, housing, or buildings. So we will collect relevant statistics as we're mapping to represent and give a picture of the extent that people living in the camp actually have access to the different amenities that we're going to map out. Next slide, please. So the tools that we're using as a project are unmanned aerial vehicles, commonly known as drones. So we're collecting imagery with a resolution of up to 3 centimeters per pixel. This is due to the setting of the housing at the camp. So in most cases, the housing is cramped. So with this high resolution, we're able to easily digitize. Another tool that we're using is the hot tasking manager. So we're using this to just coordinate the volunteers. We're using it to coordinate the volunteers to map on OpenStreetMap. And we're also using ID Editor, which is an online tool that we're using to digitize the features of interest from the drone imagery that we have uploaded onto the OpenStreetMap platform. So another phase of our project implements participatory GIS, where we'll involve the community as a whole. And we plan on using maps.me, which is a tool that will enable our volunteers to collect waypoints or location information about our points of interest. And lastly, we also plan on using QGIS on our final phase of the project to come up with the visual and also to conduct any kind of network or proximity analysis on the data that we've collected. Next slide, please. So the goal behind youth involvement as a project or as an organization is to basically just strengthen the technological capabilities of the youth, and also to encourage youth professionals to creatively use geospatial technology to address the problems in their community. So as Map Malawi, we're currently working with 2 youth groups. The first group consists of graduates from the African Drone and Data Academy, which is one of our local partners. So this group has a diverse educational background and are now Map Malawi volunteers. The second group consists of young people that live within and around the refugee camp and affiliated with a local tech lab called Techno Lab. And this is one of our local partners that is based at Dzaleka. Next slide, please. So far, we've trained 46 individuals in using ID Editor, which is the online editing tool that we're using. And we've also managed to train 2 females in using drone technology. So this comprises of the different components of the drone, flying the drone, and also mission planning. And the feedback that we've gotten has been very positive, especially from the youth at Dzaleka. They've expressed that they're now more enlightened and open to applying open geospatial technology in different areas of the camp. Next slide, please. So far, the lessons that we've learned as an organization is to quickly adapt, especially due to the pandemic. We've learned to move things around, move our deadlines, move the activities that we're supposed to do so that we are aligned to either the COVID precautions that we're supposed to take. We either had to move activities online so that our project still proceeds and we continue trying to make a difference in the community. Another lesson that we've learned is that community involvement and partnership is very key in a project success. For instance, Technolab, which is the organization based in Dzaleka, that's our partner, helped us to mobilize eager and willing youth to contribute and be part of the project. Better yet, this group is the one that is more knowledgeable about our study area and know what kind of problems that they encounter on a day-to-day basis. And our other partner that has also played a very important role is the African Drone and Data Academy. They helped us tremendously in acquiring the necessary documentation from the Department of Civil Aviation and also authorization from the Ministry of Homeland Security. And lastly, we've also learned that as there's a lot of youth that are eager to learn these new technologies and their applications, but there's limited opportunities. But as an organization, we're here to provide these opportunities moving forward. Next slide, please. So coming this far as an organization, we plan on continuing to engage the different groups in the geospatial technology in Malawi and beyond, and to also generate geospatial data that will be used by relevant stakeholders for the betterment of Malawi. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Benjamin Clark. I'm here, a developer with Facebook, and I and a couple of my compatriots here are going to talk a little bit about some of the data that Facebook has endeavored to provide all of these great organizations that are trying to map the world. So I work on user interfaces here, specifically on a version of the ID editor that Facebook maintains that we call Rapid. Next slide, please. So for those of you who aren't aware, and this is probably most people, all of Facebook's app services that you might use in the Facebook mobile app or on facebook.com, they actually use OpenStreetMap data for all of their mapping needs. So every time you look at a map from within Facebook, you're actually using OpenStreetMap data. So it's in Facebook's interest to try and keep the map as up to date as possible. So we set about looking at ways that we could add quality data to OpenStreetMap to make it easier for community mapping organizations to add good data quickly to the map. Next slide, please. So now we'll see a quick video of a user going through the hot tasking manager, selecting a task, and this particular task will involve adding some roads to the map. So the user will zoom in on the editing area, and you can see that there is one road already mapped in this area. The user will begin the process of tracing over the existing satellite imagery that we have by hand, and then they select a road type. And this can be a bit difficult to do if you're not familiar with the area, whether a road is paved or unpaved. Using the rapid workflow that Facebook has developed, we pre-draw the roads using some AI capabilities, and we pre-predict what road types those are. So you can see that this user here, at about the same time as they were able to trace a single road, has been able to add 4 or 5 roads to the map without too much trouble. And finally, our rapid editor actually has some linting capabilities. That is to say, we do some pre-checking of the data that the mapper has added to the map to help fix any issues that they've may have inadvertently introduced. Next slide, please. Here's an example of another data layer within Rapid, and this is a buildings layer that is provided to us from Microsoft, and that's available in a few countries throughout the world. Next slide. And this is data that is made available by one of our partners, Esri, through their ArcGIS OpenStreetMap database. They have a series of data sets that contain useful data such as buildings and address points that can be added to the map as well. And we've worked with them in the past year or so to add these data sets to the Rapid interface as well. Next slide. So I'll kind of walk us all through the evolution of the ID editor into Rapid. So this is a screenshot of just the ID editor. You can see a bunch of mapping data traced over the satellite imagery. And here is the Rapid interface where we have both our Facebook provided AI roads and the Microsoft provided buildings. Next slide. And so here's an area of Nebraska in the US where Esri has some interesting building data that we can adopt. So the user can click through the new Rapid interface to view and manage these different data sets. And once they've selected the data set, they can hit OK. And then we'll actually go out and fetch this information from Esri. Now, this is human surveyed data from a local municipality, and you can tell that that building on the right has really, really good footprint. It's much more involved and detailed than something that our AI might be able to trace, which would look something more like just a simple rectangle or a couple of rectangles mashed together. Next slide. And we also have, as some of our panelists have mentioned, we have a plugin for the JOSM editor, which is a Java-based editor that's a little bit more advanced than some of the capabilities that Rapid has, but it works on much the same principle. You can load building data and road data from within the plugin and add it to OpenStreetMap. This greatly speeds up what human mappers are able to do. Next.
All right, hi, I'm Jeff Underwood. I'm a maps quality analyst at Facebook, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we actually develop these machine learning roads. Next slide. So we took OpenStreetMap data itself, and we took about 1 million samples of 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer squares, and we fed this to our machine learning algorithms. And what we taught it was what is a road and what isn't. just using the OpenStreetMap data itself. So next slide. I'd like to visualize some of our results we get from this and how this works. We feed the machine satellite imagery. And what we get back from that is this. It's actually a black and white image, or black and pink in this case, where the machine thinks that pink is a road and pink and black, or transparent in this case, is not a road. You can see that there's some spots that are thicker and some spots that are weaker, and that corresponds to how confident the machine is that this is a road or not. But this is just a picture, and we have to turn this into actual usable data. So the next step is to turn into line data, which you're seeing here. And that involves actually very complicated post-processing. Turning this into lines that are usable and high quality is a major part of our work. But now if we take a look at OpenStreetMap in this area, we will see, next slide please, that there is a road already. And we don't need to be predicting things that are already on OpenStreetMap. Our goal is to remove, or just to add, missing data. So the last step of our process is to just conflate away anything that's already on the map. And what you get in Rapid then is this combination. So next slide, please. Where we have magenta roads that are everything missing, and then the OSM data that's already there. And that's what users will see when they enter into Rapid. Next slide, please. Like this. Here's an area where we have very little data. And as Ben showed, you can quickly add all of these missing roads. Next slide. Now, for road coverage, we actually have this nearly globally. Every country in pink here has full AI road coverage. So generally speaking, you can drop in just about anywhere and start mapping. And as far as buildings, which Ben mentioned earlier, those are available in US, Canada, Tanzania, Uganda, and Australia. Next slide, thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Yunzi. I'm also a quality analyst from Facebook. Next slide, please. Yeah, so our team have been actively mapping on OSM since 2017. And our project coverage, including Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, India, and Tanzania. Next slide, please. Here is a video showing our mapping progress in Malaysia using Rapid. With Rapid data, we are able to map out this size of area within just a couple months. Next slide, please. This is another video. This is Dodoma in Tanzania, where many of the roads were mapped using Rapid, visualized in pink as well. As we zoom out, you can begin to see the scale of the mapping going on around the world, where 7.2 million of new roads has been added to the map so far. Next slide, please. So what's next for Facebook? First, we'll continue adding ancillary data set in any data type, and they could be roads or POIs or buildings. Second, well, at the meantime, we also welcome you to bring your own data set, and we can support to put this data set into ancillary platform and end up loading in Rapid. The second one is we are going to improve our tooling performance, especially those slow data loading problems. And we also continue to improve our prediction model. And since getting into pandemic, outdoor activity for pedestrian is more and more popular. So we'll start building up features to support sidewalk mapping as well. Next slide, please. If you want to learn more about Rapid yourself, here's the URL. You can visit mapwith.ai/rapid. We have a full materials talking about how to use Rapid. And feel free to contact us at osm@facebook.com. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, if you are interested in getting involved in humanitarian mapping and also connecting with the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, we do have a Mapathon that is coming up on the 28th, where you can learn more about our work and also how to create map data remotely for humanitarian and development purposes, but also where you'll be able to like discuss opportunities to partner with us. So if you an organization that has any work that you are doing in Eastern and Southern Africa, please share this the invitation to this Mapathon to with your colleagues. We also do encourage global team members also welcome. I think that the more people that join the Mapathon, the merrier. So yeah, come and contribute to open map data in different parts of the world, and also learn more about our work, and also discuss opportunities to partner. Next slide. Yeah, so like I mentioned, sign up for the Mapathon. The registration link is in the chat. But also, if you want to generate critical geospatial data quickly and at scale in any country where you work, or if you're interested in connecting to any of our local OSM communities that we work with, you can also get in touch through the partnerships team. The email is also dropped in the chat. But most importantly, you can also join a mapping event locally. So there is our Missing Maps project, where we can become a member of the organization of the project and also contribute through the Missing Maps, but also you can join a local event in your city. And if there is no Missing Maps event in your city, you can also help organize one, and we can work together to organize that. Yeah, so I think that's it. Thank you, and I'll hand over back to
Thanks, Jeffrey. Oh, so yeah, lots of information there to think about. I think mapping is something that lots of different organizations have a need for. Question that I have really is how does an organization that has a particular mapping need engage with Humanitarian OpenStreetMap's team in order to meet that need?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So yeah, like I mentioned, I can connect through our partnerships team. They'll be able to discuss like the details and also how we can get that data made available. So like there are two ways of mapping, one in which is remote mapping, but also more detailed mapping if you want to collect more detailed information on ground. And that's where we really do the connection with the local mapping communities that are there, that in the different parts of the world that we do work with. And yeah, we can always make that connection through our partnerships team. But also there are opportunities to volunteer. If you have like staff at your organization, I have organization that we work with that organize mapping events where they ask their staff to volunteer to some of our humanitarian mapping projects. So that's also an opportunity for collaboration to create map data in different parts of the world where it's missing.
It's great to see the artificial intelligence and machine learning being used to assist with the task of mapping. I think this brings some opportunities that perhaps in the past has seemed the tasks just too big. Is this something that you've seen, Jeffrey? Is mapping now much more in reach of smaller organizations and individuals than it once was?
Yeah, yes, definitely. Yeah, so I think with the coming of AI, we are able to map more faster. Like I mentioned, one of our goals as the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team is to help map a place that is home to 1 billion people. If you want to do this as soon as possible, as fast as possible, then we need the AI tools that make mapping quicker and faster. And I think the key thing to note here is that this map data is also not just, this AI data is not just uploaded to the map. There's still an element of, where a human is also checking to confirm and then uploading this data to OpenStreetMap. So the human element of mapping is also not removed because that's like at the center, at the core of OpenStreetMap and what it's all about. The AI tools help us to map faster, and different communities have used these tools that are developed by Facebook to help level up the speed and the level which they're mapping, and also to make the mapping more accurate.
A question just came in relation to that from Abhishek. If AI is able to do the mapping, what will be the role of volunteers? Perhaps you can expand on that.
Yes. Yeah, we do have the AI tools to help us map faster, but we still need the human element of it, because like I think Jeff was showing in the demonstration, there is already these roads and buildings which have been predicted, but also there is already existing data in OpenStreetMap. So before someone adds a road, also we can use that human to confirm that the road already exists there or it hasn't, because OpenStreetMap changes all the time. There are hundreds of people who are editing the map every day. So even as we are adding this information to the map, it's crucial to still confirm that what we are adding is correct.
I mean, that segues.
And I think as we do,
Sorry,
I think, and as we do that, we are also training the machines to become better at predicting and make map data more easily available all over the world. Yes.
So that segues quite neatly into the question of how the maps are kept up to date over time. So obviously there may be a Mapathon that pushes out a new map where there wasn't one before, but over time things change on the ground. New roads are built, houses come and go. What's the process for keeping things up to date?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, and I think the important thing to note here is that OpenStreetMap still remains an open project, and different people are using it for different purposes. There are companies who are using data to power their applications, but also there are like humanitarian organizations that use this data for humanitarian response. So it's a collaborative effort between different groups and individuals and also organizations. As we all continue contributing to this map, we help keep it live. But I think also the other bit that is necessary is also to make sure that we can empower local mapping communities to be able to keep the map data updated, because when it comes to the local data, for example, the points of interest like Samson was mentioning, that really requires teams on ground who live there to be able to add that more detailed information and also keep it up to date. So the more communities that are trained and are involved in editing OpenStreetMap, the better we become at keeping this map live, but also to encourage other organizations that are doing development programs across the world to contribute to OpenStreetMap, because the data is open and available, but we need to keep it live. So the more people get involved, the better.
And perhaps a sort of related question to to Facebook. So yeah, so how often is the street map machine learning applied to satellite images in order to update? Are you periodically updating that, or is it still in the process of moving on to the next location?
So we refresh the data every year or so, but of course, the satellite imagery we use is it's refreshed at different times all over the world. It's we use Maxar imagery, and they update their mosaic on a relatively continuous basis, but they update parts of the world. And so the satellite we run against may be very fresh or maybe several years old. It kind of just depends on where we're looking, how much Maxar has refreshed it. Some parts of the world are cloudy most of the time, so it's very hard to get fresh satellite. So we do run our machine learning periodically, but the freshness of the data will vary, of course.
And a related question came in from Abhishek about whether certain countries or geographies are prioritized for this, or is there a need for expansion to other locations?
So for roads, it's available globally. There's a couple countries that we cannot serve due to US sanctions, but other than that, everywhere in the world has data. This is something that we want everyone in the world to be able to use. As far as roads go, it's available everywhere. The buildings are more limited, but we don't control those, unfortunately.
Esther asked a related question, whether any communities or indeed governments have objected to mapping. And I know that Samson mentioned, at a local level, getting permission or MOUs with city authorities. I mean, have Humanitarian OpenStreetMap Team encountered any problems?
That's a good question. So it's important to involve the local community when you're going to do mapping. So it's possible to get to go to an area and you get resistance to map, but it also depends on the approach. I think when you do community mapping and you involve the local community in the mapping exercise, then it becomes easier. Like Ndapile was mentioning, the mapping that they're planning to do in Dzaleka refugee camp. They're going actually to work with the youth that live in this refugee settlement, and the ones who are going to conduct the mapping exercise. So already that is like community engagement, and if people see these youth moving around and collecting data, they will not resist. But if you get 10 people from Lilongwe, the capital, take them to the refugee camp and they're doing mapping and the locals don't know them, then that's where you kind of face resistance. But even in those cases, I think it's important to involve the local authorities, openly communicate on why you are doing the mapping and also how the data can help them. And through the local authorities, like Samson has mentioned as well, you can get permission to work in these communities. And once you have like the local leadership, then it's also easier to collect data on ground without any kind of objections from the community.
Okay. And Apile mentioned in her part of the presentation that Map Malawi is using drones to collect more high-resolution imagery. I think it was 3 centimeter pixels. So obviously that is producing another level of data. Is this something that can be mashed up with artificial intelligence and machine learning that Facebook's put together?
So it's we are experimenting with high resolution satellite. One of the challenges though with using other sources is that we've trained on Maxar, and so the machine understands what a road is on Maxar imagery. It doesn't necessarily understand what it is on a different imagery, which may have, you know, a completely different color scheme kind of, or just the angles may be different. It's something we are starting to play around with though, but you know, it's not necessarily we can just plug in different imageries. Machine learning can be very picky.
Okay. Okay, and Dapile, is the plan at Map Malawi to sort of use a similar approach but more human-centered?
So our plan is more human-centered. The plan is to upload our drone imagery on OpenStreetMap and have the community members actually digitize it manually.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So an organization that perhaps had its own drones and was gathering similar imagery might take that approach. So it'd be very interesting to learn how that goes for you.
Yeah, and maybe also to add on, we do have a platform called OpenAerialMap, where organizations that have freely available like drone imagery that they want to share and also use for mapping in OpenStreetMap. It's a platform where anyone can share it and becomes openly available for anyone to use for editing in OpenStreetMap. Yeah, so I'll share the link in chat. If anyone has any imagery they want to share, they can also share it there, but also use the one that is already existing that has been provided by other individuals. And I think Yandati will also be adding the information there from Zaleka mapping. The image will be openly available for other people also to use and also contribute to the mapping.
Okay, and there's lots of drone enthusiasts all over the world that may be able to contribute some of their own imagery, as well as organizations and companies that are collecting that imagery. So yeah, it does seem, yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful sort of combination of human endeavor and technology and you know, the new horizons of machine learning. So and Pile just mentioned that the Seleka refugee imagery is already up on OpenAerialMap. So that's great. So I guess that means that it won't be long before it'd be possible for volunteers to get involved in mapping the refugee camp with you. Is that right, Ndapile?
Yes, that's right. We'll start our mapping soon.
Great. So we're getting towards the end of the hour now. One last question from me, which I mean, I think anybody on the panel might be able to answer, but just some examples of, you know, one or two examples of how this mapping has delivered benefit to communities or to organizations.
Yeah, I think I can go first. So at the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, we do a lot of also disaster response mapping. So some of the data that is, you know, contributed by volunteers is used by organizations like Red Cross, like MSF to deliver, you know, aid to people who need it critically. And I think that in a way helps them reach people who are need faster and maybe help save lives, but also through the different groups that we are working with, the local mapping communities. In most cases, they work with a data user that you know, makes use of the data that they generate to solve a local challenge. Like Samson mentioned, for Uganda, the data is being used for urban planning and also for the refugee response in Malawi. So there are always examples like this, and that's why it's crucial not just to do mapping, but also to use the mapping to solve a local challenge. Yeah, if the mapping is done without solving the local problems, then people will not find it useful. So they should either use it to solve a local challenge or even to grow business. But the data can also be used in development projects, as we have seen different organizations using it across the world.
Fantastic. So anybody who has been watching this, I think we have an opportunity coming up in a week's time to get involved in a Mapathon. I wonder if Madeline, if you could switch to that page that had the details of that on, in case people are have missed it. Okay. Thanks. Yes. So do take a look at the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap Team Mapathon next Wednesday at 4 till 5:30 in the afternoon, Universal Standard Time. It'd be a great opportunity just to see how this stuff works and what it's like to work with it, and a great opportunity to talk with the Humanitarian OpenStreetMaps team about how you may be able to partner. So I'd like to thank all of the panelists very much for their time today and sharing this with us. I think it's a great opportunity. I've had a go at a bit of mapping myself, and I found it very compelling and engaging, and spent some hours into the night doing some mapping in Democratic Republic of Congo. So yeah, I'd encourage everybody to take a look and contribute to this. So yeah. So thanks to all of our speakers, and thanks to everybody that's attended our session today. Look forward to seeing you again for another NetHope Solution Center webinar.
Thanks, Duncan, and thank you again to all of our speakers. It was a very interesting session today. Thank you to all of the attendees for taking time out of your day to participate. Do please take a moment to complete our webinar satisfaction poll. A link will be provided in the chat window, and a window will pop up after you close out of the Zoom webinar. Also look for that follow-up email that will include a link to the recording and more information about mapping, the Mapathon, etc. And thank you again. Please have a great rest of your day.